now in this phase. Now that we've talked about comfort and discomfort, what I want to do is break down the human body for you so that when you're sitting in a meeting, when you are hiring a new employee, when you are dealing with an associate, when you are negotiating a contract, I want to break down the whole human body from face all the way down to the feet and decipher these behaviors so that there is no doubt at any time what you are seeing, decoding it properly, and then utilizing that information to help you to, number one, communicate better, and number two, to understand what it is that the person you're dealing with is thinking, feeling, or intending. So we've talked about the face as being the primary location where we look for discomfort. And obviously the forehead, we see the displays there with a furrowed forehead and other displays such as facial touching to show us that there's discomfort. The next area that I want to look at is the eyes, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about the eyes and what the eyes really tell us. Our eyes are truly magnificent. We get most of the information around us from the eyes. And we look to the eyes to sort of speak to us. And the eyes can, in fact, be very emotive. And as I said, when things are good, the orbits of the eyes and the pupils, in fact, dilate. When things are bad, or we've actually done studies where when you're presented with a picture of something frightening or bad, your pupils constrict. It's extremely accurate. And this is something that we need to be mindful of, that when we're dealing with someone and you see a lot of squinting, well, I mean, it could be that their contact lenses aren't fitting well or that they're dry. But it also could be that the very topic that's being addressed is one that they don't particularly like. And I'll give you an example. I was in a conference once where I was sitting there reviewing paragraph by paragraph a document between two parties. And as we got to one paragraph, the opposing party started to squint as they looked at this particular paragraph. And I sent a note to the attorney who was working on the case, and I said, there's going to be issues with this paragraph. And sure enough. And later he said to me, well, how did you know that? And I said, look, it was very simple. When we got to the paragraph, all of a sudden we see this squinting, a sure sign of discomfort. It was in real time and very specific to this very topic. So if pupil dilation or the orbits of the eyes dilate when things are good, we want to look for this to demonstrate to us that things are progressing well. What else can the eyes tell us about discomfort? Well, one of the things that we do at a very early age is we tend to use the eyelids to block the world around us. Our eyelids, sometimes we'll cover them with our fingers, or we will, somebody says to us, well, where were you last night? And our eyelids come down, or did you get that project done? And our eyelids come down, and then they take a long time to open up. This is a blocking behavior. This is in essence saying, I don't like what I just heard. Now, this has nothing to do with deception. It has to do with blocking out the things that we don't like to hear. This is so primitive, so ingrained in us, so ancient, that children who are born blind, when they hear something they don't like, they will actually block their eyes. This is how accurate this is. So this is something that we can look for when we're talking to a client, when we're talking to employees, and we're talking to each other, human resources, wherever the setting is, and the person begins to block with their eyes, be assured they're trying to keep this information out. In some way, this is not good information for them. And what a great opportunity to be able to then jump in and say, how do you feel about this? Or, can we work with this? Or take that information and put it to good usage. The other thing that we do with the eyes, which I think is very significant, is something that's known as eyelid flutter. And that's when we're struggling with something that's being said or being processed by the brain. And when that happens, the eyes will flutter very quickly. I'll see if I can, hang on, see if I can demonstrate it here. They'll go like this. The eyelid flutter because they are struggling with something. Hugh Grant, the actor, does this all the time. Something's going on, he's struggling with it. It's demonstrative of a struggle. Now, it may be a struggle because they're trying to find the right word. It may be a struggle because they're trying to find an alternative. It has nothing to do with deception, but it's a very significant tell. Now, there's something I failed to mention early on, which I should mention here, and that is that any behavior which is repetitive, which becomes a sort of tic, becomes neutral. And we sort of ignore it. And you've seen people whose legs bounce up and down all the time. They look like a sewing machine. That's just what they do every day to maintain this sort of norm. Some people squint all the time, and this can be very comforting for them. Or they play with the corner of their eyes, plucking their hairs. These are to be ignored. These are stress indicators, and this is how they deal with everyday stress. So beyond eye blocking and eye flutter, the other one that you need to be aware of, which is fairly well studied and it's universal, and that is the rolling of the eyes. This is just something that should not be tolerated. It's very indicative of indifference, and it's disrespectful. And that's where somebody just rolls their eyes at you. And when that happens, I tell business people you shouldn't tolerate that. You shouldn't tolerate it from your children. You shouldn't tolerate it from employees and so forth. And if they come in and say, well, you don't really know what that means, well, that's just nonsense. We actually do know what that means, and it's extremely disrespectful. What it's saying is I'm looking away from you even as you're speaking. So just be aware of that. So we've talked about the eyes. Very powerful indicators of what the brain is processing. Now, you've probably noticed that I haven't talked about looking up and to the left, down and to the right, and so forth. Why am I not going to be talking about that? Simply because of this. There's not a lot of science that supports the study of what was once referred to as neuro-linguistic programming. And that is that if you look up and to the left and then down and to your right, it has certain meaning. Scientifically, we just haven't been able to show that, so I don't talk about it. Let me transition now to the mouth, because the mouth is one of the best places to pick up behaviors of both comfort and discomfort. And probably the easiest way to look at it is, let's look at discomfort first, and then we'll look at comfort. When we are comfortable, our mouths and the muscles around our mouths are very relaxed. When we have something that's causing us discomfort, a flight is canceled, you just got to notice that you need to get rid of X amount of employees, or you have to downsize, or there's some issue that's very significant. Your mouth will demonstrate the concern and the distraught that you are going through. How? First, the muscles around the mouth become very tight, and your lips go from full lips to very tight lips, to the point where your lips literally disappear. And we see this a lot, especially with people who have been recently arrested or testifying in Congress, and so forth. And there's something very stressful that's being discussed, and all of a sudden you look at them and their lips are gone. This is a very accurate indicator of distress. And that's not the only place we see this. We see this in contract negotiations, where we're discussing specific issues and one or more parties will, their lips disappear. This is indicative of tension. And this can flow. You can have you're discussing, let's say, an instrument, you're looking at a contract, and the first 11 items on the contract are great, your lips are relaxed and so forth. You get to item number 13 and 14 and boom, the lips disappear. This is an extremely accurate indicator of something distressful. Not deception, but just something that stresses you out. Now, and not just the tensioning of the lips, but now in coordination with a lot of pacifying behaviors around the mouth, such as lip touching, lip pulling, lip biting. These are all pacifiers that we use to calm ourselves down. So you're at an airport and you notice that all of a sudden flights are canceled. Lips become tight or they disappear. There's a lot of mouth touching, a lot of lip biting, indicative of distress. And you'll see this in meetings. You'll see this with applicants. For instance, you're asking an applicant, have you ever had any problems with the law, or have you ever been fired? And all of a sudden you see this tension in the face. Even before they answer, you know that there's an issue there because this question has caused them a certain amount of discomfort. Now, some of the ways that we also show discomfort is by lip licking. The licking of the lips is a pacifier. And sometimes we show that we're uncomfortable by repeated lip licking and so forth. Lip biting we've talked about and so forth. One of the most accurate indicators that we have from our mouth that we are in disagreement with something or we don't like something is lip pursing. And lip pursing usually demonstrates like this. It's very quick, but it's extremely accurate. And what it says is, I'm thinking of something alternatively than that which is being discussed, or I am in complete disagreement. Now, I see this in court a lot. The attorneys are at sidebar, they're talking to the judge, and the judge is sitting there going, they're wasting the judge's time. And I've seen this in meetings, in business meetings, where you have employees or associates, they're making a pitch to the boss, and the boss is sitting there going, I can tell you right now, lip pursing is transmitting, it's yelling back at them, folks, I'm listening to you, but I'm already thinking of something alternatively, or I am in complete disagreement. When you see this behavior, especially the lip pursing, what it's saying is, hey, maybe I should check and see what it is that this person is thinking about, or is there an alternative that I haven't thought about? But don't continue to talk and drag this on when in essence what you're doing is taking their time. One other thing about the face and the mouth in particular that's kind of fascinating, it's something that we've termed tongue jutting. And we've seen it around the world. And what it means is I've gotten away with something or I got caught. And usually you see it like this. It comes at the end of a statement or a conversation, and you ask somebody, well, is that the best deal you can offer? And they go, yeah, absolutely, that's the best deal possible. And you see the tongue comes out and it's between the teeth, but it doesn't touch the lips. It's extremely accurate. Like I said, we see it in a lot of places, but it really means I've gotten away with something. And as a business person, I'm always looking for this. I remember a few years ago, I was buying a car, and at the end of the wheeling and dealing, I asked the salesperson, is this the best deal? And he did one of these tongue juts, and at that point said, we're renegotiating. And sure enough, we were negotiated for a better price in my favor. So we've looked at the forehead, the eyes, the mouth, obviously any tension of the face. And one of the things that we do a lot of is when there is tension is we pacify by touching. Now, we need to differentiate because many of you, many business people, when you're thinking about something, you may be touching your chin, and this is called being pensive. You're thinking about what you're doing. And that needs to be differentiated from facial touching, where you're stroking your face, stroking your nose, maybe pulling on your lip. Those are pacifiers. We do that when there's discomfort. We do that when something is bothering us, and we need to be aware of us. Now, as we descend down and we look at the neck and the nonverbals of the neck, and these are extremely important because, as I said, when we're comfortable, we tend to expose our neck. When we're not comfortable, our neck becomes very rigid. But one of the ways that we also demonstrate how uncomfortable we are is by neck touching. And we do it in a variety of ways. And usually, if it's not scratching, if it's any neck touching, and look for this from now on, is usually associated with some discomfort. Now, some of it may be minimal, such as, boy, I wish I'd done that earlier, Or it may be, I don't like what's being said, but associate any kind of neck touching with some sort of discomfort. Now, men and women do it differently. Men tend to do it more robustly. First of all, if men have beards, they may stroke their beards all the way down. But certainly, any neck touching on the part of men tends to be more robust. So we massage our necks more, we touch our necks more, we stroke our necks more. And this area is rich with nerves. We have the vagus nerves on either side. We have all sorts of surface nerves that also serve to pacify us. And so that's why we tend to touch the neck a lot when we are distressed. Or we may ventilate. We may go, whoa, almost got hit there. This is a sign of discomfort. Women do it slightly differently. Women tend not to touch their neck so robustly. Women may touch their hair and play with their hair to pacify themselves. Or they may in fact cover this little area right here, which is called the suprasternal notch. That's a big word for the neck dimple. And this is truly the most vulnerable part of our body because this is where blood flows, food flows, and air flows right through this little area. And what you'll see is women, when they feel discomfort, insecurities, or they're distressed, will in fact bring their fingers together and cover this suprasternal notch. It is an extremely accurate, real-time indicator of high distress, but certainly we see it with insecurities or where there are some issues. And it may flow. As the person is talking on the phone, they may say, yeah, it was a really bad situation, but it's much better now, but it could always return. And you see this in real time. It is extremely, extremely accurate. So neck touching, neck rubbing, indicators of distress. Men and women do it differently. Women tend to wear jewelry, so you may see a woman playing with her jewelry, moving it side to side, manipulating it in some way. This is to relieve that stress. Men may fix their tie, or they may ventilate their neck. In real time, they're saying, something is really bothering me. And that's why you see these behaviors around the neck. Another one that involves the neck, and it has to do with the concept of hiding in the open. We call it the turtle effect. You come in and you ask an employee, Ralph or Sally, how's that project going? And you see the shoulders rising towards the ears. It's not very elegant, but the shoulders rise towards the ears. Anytime you see shoulders rising towards the ears, these are indicative of discomfort. These are indicative of I am not committed to what I am thinking or what I am saying. These are high discomfort displays. The person is literally like a turtle hiding in the open by raising their shoulders and making their neck disappear. And you want to look for these things, and you might see both shoulders come up, or you may just see a partial one, where you ask a person, well, did you get that done? And they say, yeah, it's pretty much done. And you say, well, why did the shoulders rise to do that? It's because they're not truly committed to what's being said. It's not truly a part of what they feel. And so the limbic brain doesn't allow a full production to come forward. It doesn't allow you to fully manifest how confident you are. Rising shoulders is a lack of confidence.